Salad shooter. Recording in 3, 2.
I am Robert M. Price.
I'm Dr. Darrell Ray.
Hi, I'm Karen Lumley-Kerr.
Hi, I'm Aaron Roy.
Hi, I'm Marissa Alexa McCool.
Hi, I'm Jerry DeWitt.
Hi, this is David Smalley from Dogma Debate.
Hi, this is Dan Barker.
Hi, I'm John McComb from The John McComb Show.
Hi, I'm Dr. Drance.
Hi, I'm Richard Carrier.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Tyson.
Hi, I'm Seth Andrews. I'm host of The Thinking Atheist.
Hey guys, I'm Cara Santa Maria.
Hi, I'm David Fitzgerald.
Hi, I'm Brian Keith Dalton.
Hi, this is Tom and Cecil from Cognitive Dissonance, and we took a left at the Valley.
We did take a left at the Valley.
And a wrong turn in Albuquerque.
And then the left at the Valley goes right to a glory hole. It's like right to a glory hole.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with the religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.
Coming at you from holier than thou, Abbotsford, BC. This is Left of the Valley. My name is Kevin, and I told my psychiatrist everybody hates me. He said I was being ridiculous. Not everybody has met me yet. Joining me as usual is a team that came from a tough neighborhood. When they put their hands into cement, they usually felt another hand. When she was a kid, her parents moved around a lot, but she always found them. Nancy.
I always do what?
You always found your parents.
I was my right. I know. They left little clues called children.
Her mother had morning sickness after she was born. Christina.
That she did.
And her mom said that her first love was puppy love, but her doctor said it was an unhealthy attachment to a pet. Kirsten.
Do you have a theme going today, Kevin?
I don't know.
Thinking parents?
Guys, welcome back. Hope you had a great week.
I did.
Yeah, the sun is shining today, so that's great.
Fabulous week.
I missed the rain.
You missed. Oh, jeez, come on.
It was raining the other day.
I know, but it's not now.
Oh.
It's gonna come back for the rest of the week. Yay. Don't worry.
Well, we just got off doing a bit of a show with our friend Robert Stanley of The Right to Reason, and we look forward to hearing from that.
Oh yeah, it was terrific.
Oh yeah, we had a great time. And
modestly speaking,
it's been a busy weekend. And Friday, in case you didn't notice, we actually aired a bonus show where we were featured on the Brainstorm podcast. And that was an hour of pure mayhem.
And dick jokes.
And dick jokes
so
and microphone blowjobs. And it is us at our raunchiest. I'm pretty sure you can find that.
It was wonderful.
We're going to be absolutely, completely serious and professional now. We've gotten it all out of our systems.
I know.
Or we've just got it.
It was great. It was Left at the Valley uncensored. It was wonderful.
I love it.
Or we just started.
But today we'll be talking to Jessica Schab. She's a crystal child, and her story is absolutely fascinating. How a child can be raised to think she's got special powers and chosen by God. And we're going to be talking to her later. But first, let's do a bit of chit-chat. Did you guys hear in Argentina, the cops lost 540 kilos of weed?
That's impressive.
Yeah, and they had that as evidence for a couple of busts, and they blamed the rats.
No, I thought it was mice. I thought they blamed mice.
Well, mice, rats, they're really different.
Might have been a different one. Maybe everyone's got that excuse on their mind.
So apparently, according to the police, the rats, or the mice, decide to eat the weed. So if you see a couple of funny-looking mice stumbling around, you know what it is. If you see a whole bunch of rats eating Cheetos, you let the local police know right away. Although the experts are denying the rats would confuse their weed with their regular food. So you never know. Argentina, hey, place to party. We're going to talk briefly about the Humboldt Broncos bus crash.
Yeah.
That was this is a hockey team out of Saskatchewan that was riding their bus there, going to a game, and they hit a semi. 16 of their young players were killed.
More the semi hit them.
Well, okay, whichever way, right? 10 of them still remain in the hospital. This happened on April 6th near Armley, Saskatchewan. I mean, it's quite tragic, obviously.
It was awful.
Absolutely.
These players are young too. I mean, they're not like toddlers, but they're like teenagers, and some of them had some very brilliant prospects in their career. There was a. Did you guys participate in the Jersey Day?
I didn't. I don't actually own a jersey.
I do not either, and I actually ended up missing that day at work.
There was an impromptu day that the people decided, in support of the Humboldt team there, you should wear a jersey. Doesn't matter which sport jersey you did. Yeah. The funny thing is, here's a connection. My girlfriend Simona, you might not know that one of her cousins is the one that started this day.
Really?
Yeah, exactly.
Small world.
Small world after all, right?
Well, a small country anyways.
Yeah, right. The size of our country. So anyway.
Though, what I did see a lot of was after this tragedy happened, all over Canada, people were putting their hockey sticks out.
Yeah.
And I don't have a hockey stick, but...
What do you have? Don't have a jersey? Don't have a hockey stick?
I have a wand.
What kind of Canadian are you?
I have multiple wands, a time turner.
Well, how about you turn time and get
You have a riding crop?
Except that's actually for riding horses. But
that's what happens when you vote for Hufflepuffs. Or whatever it is.
Hufflepuffs are wonderful, Kevin.
Yeah, no, it was really, really awesome to see everybody.
Yeah, the show of solidarity across the country was really nice.
It did. It touched everyone.
Yeah.
And there was a GoFundMe as well.
Here's a fun little story. In Scotland, there's a guy named David Henderson, and doesn't ring a bell. He's got two friends and a couple, and his kids and all that. They went camping, and they set up on an island near in Scotland somewhere, and all of a sudden they were surrounded by cops.
What?
Yeah. Well, these guys are metal fans, heavy metal fans. So they would dress up in what they call their corpse paint, which is black and white paint, right?
Did they think they were like doing a satanic ritual or something?
That's exactly what happened. There was a manager of nearby ruins, right, who saw them, and they thought there was some kind of cult or some kind of dead ritual was going on, and she called the cops, and all of a sudden helicopters are buzzing about, and boats are coming in, and these guys are being taken ashore.
Talk about
so wow. I can just imagine that phone call, like,
I think they're doing they might be sacrificing a goat or a virgin. Hurry.
It was just a funny story. Oh, and of course, we got to talk about, the U.S. decided to strike Syria.
Oh, my God.
I'm sure, Nancy, you got plenty to say about that. The funny thing about that was, just before they did that, Trump was started to tweet, of course. Somebody needs to take that freaking phone away from him. He might hit Syria after Russia said they would shoot the missiles out of the sky if the U.S. was about to say that. But it's almost like somebody came to Trump and say, "Sir, we're not supposed to announce our plans." And now Trump said, "Well, we might shoot Syria, we might bomb Syria, we might not." Stupid.
I love how he warned Russia.
Yeah, I think part of the progressive opinion, or the Democrat opinion, or the anti-Trump opinion is that he was definitely giving the Russians a heads up. Scatter now. I'm giving you enough warning where you can get out of there. So I'm not going to hit anybody. So the message to Putin is, it's okay. I know you're involved, but we're not going to hit your guys. So there is still a little controversy about that tweet, but then it's Trump, so all of his tweets are controversial.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't follow the whole Syrian war very closely, but there's something I find a bit suspicious about that. Last I checked, Assad was kind of winning, was he?
I think he winning. It's because he's got all the troops and the money.
But he was winning
weapons
against ISIS. He was winning against these factions. So it's kind of weird that all of a sudden he decides to gas his own people. I don't know. There's something that just if somebody knows more than I and they can actually enlighten me on the subject, please let me know. Send me an email or give me a call. So I just find that suspicious all of a sudden. I don't want to start conspiracy theory here. But
it's so complicated that actually I see what's going on, but I really can't explain. I can't explain it to myself or anyone else. All I know is it's abominable. And I think at this point he has been responsible for killing 500,000 of his own people in this civil war between ISIS and the civil war. 500,000.
And now, of course, Canada, the UK and France have decided to jump in with the US, and Canada decided to also announce, the Prime Minister decided to announce they will support what the US are doing. So it seems that there's another war that's starting all of a sudden.
Well, I guess that's the chemical weapons. I was surprised, to tell you the truth, that these strikes were as restrained as they were, because I'd figured that, Trump would get in there and want to use, nuclear weapons and, have a huge strike. But it looks like calmer, if you can say, the calmer hawks prevailed, and so it was very precision-like, and it was only for the chemical weapons.
He's not the one flying the drones either.
But there's no policy, and there's no idea about what's going to happen. So I don't have anything to say about that, and that's it.
Cool. Maybe we should bring in somebody else on that can really explain the whole Syrian war.
Yeah, we should.
And last but not least, Pro D Day. You guys know what Pro D Day is, right?
Yeah.
It's Professional Development Day, and teachers take that day to try to sharpen some of their skills, and it's a day off for students. Well, this year, right here in the area, they decided maybe it wasn't the best thing to do, because they decided to do Pro D Day on 420.
Geniuses.
So now, of course, some parents are really concerned that the kids are just going to take the day off to...
They were going to take the day off anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
Might as well. Nothing missed.
They have parties to attend.
Yes.
So who knows, the art gallery this year in Vancouver might be really, really packed.
There will be some very important developments made.
A lot of brownie baking.
Yeah, we don't want to get into that.
Well, there's going to be a lot of baking, that's for sure.
Yeah. I had a horrible, horrible experience with that. I'm not sure I want to get into that right now. All right. Excellent. My dear Nancy, you got something for us? You got a top 10 going on for us?
I do. I got a top 10 going today, since it's getting close to vacation season, and if people are looking around for places to go to enjoy their vacation, which usually happens this time around, I've got a lovely list of places to avoid like the plague.
Oh,
do not
avoid
go.
These places.
These are the places to avoid. If someone gives you a ticket to go to one of these places, suspect that friendship or suspect that relationship immediately.
The Left of the Valley Studios in there, right?
There you go. Yeah, well, we were number 11, so luckily we escaped the list. Anyway, this was put together by not a travel list, but journalism on the run. So these are people that go to all of these different kinds of people, and it got their reviews. Anyway, number 10 on the list is Bratislava, Slovakia. Anybody been to Slovakia?
Nope. I haven't been outside of Canada, so
sounds like a place the Avengers went to recently.
It could be, although the journalist, who's Olivia McDonald, said that it was the most boring place that she'd ever been to. She said the downtown was so minuscule and so sloppy and not well taken care of that even the people weren't there was nothing there that was attractive. The hostels were drab, the history is sad, the land used to be vineyards and then it was lost. You said the only positive reason to go is the food. So if they have takeout and you can be someplace that's Bratislava. And she said the rest of the country might be incredible, but she's not taking a chance. Once she went to Bratislava, that was it. Number 9 is Bromo, Indonesia. Anybody here?
No, I don't do hot places.
Okay.
It'd be it'd be very damp though.
Yeah,
okay,
gross.
When the World Travel representative went there, that she said it was both he was both the best and the worst in one place. The best was it provided a stunning site for landscape addicts, and it was a wonderful community. They were welcome. There was a range of adventures and experiences. But the worst aspects of which was supposed to be a fast-rising tourist destination was that an overwhelming amount of visitors head every morning to catch the sunrise to find what's out there, and everybody heads for exactly the same place, and there's no room for everybody when they get to the top of this particular mountain, which is supposed to be the place to go. And there are also high health risks for visitors, sulfur-filled air, that doesn't sound too good, and it's a volcano. That is the site that everybody is going to, and everybody wants to go catch the glimpse of this crater, and everybody's there breathing in the sulfur, and it's bad working conditions for them, and
isn't that where Krakatoa was?
Horses carrying people back and forth. So
isn't that where Krakatoa was?
Krakatoa was in the Pacific, though, wasn't it? It's an island.
I thought it was in Indonesian zone somewhere.
No, it could. We'll have to look it up.
I mean, you were there when it blew up. So.
Well, yeah, that's why I remember.
But you weren't close by.
Hey, listen, when you've been to so many places and had so, they all blend. They all blend. Okay, Cairo, Egypt. That's
really?
Yeah. And this Anna, she goes by Anna everywhere. She said Egypt was her dream destination, and so when she finally went there after graduating high school, she was so excited, and she was about to see the famous pyramids, the Sphinx, and so forth. And so she was an art historian, and she was fascinated by the whole thing, but no air conditioning, and so the visit at the museum, she could only be there for a half hour, and it was so hot, and there were so many people in there. It was supposed to be a really tourist destination, but she couldn't enjoy it. And then when she went to the pyramids, it was a really high price to get in, and she couldn't stand it for more than 3 minutes because it was so crowded to go in and go out. And then the Sphinx, she went to see the Sphinx, and what was at the base of the Sphinx? Pizza Hut. And and she said, no matter what you think, when you see all of the enticing pictures,
kind of changes the whole riddle of the Sphinx thing, doesn't it? What has great pan crust?
Yeah, either that or what did a supreme or cheese?
If you don't pick the right pizza, you're killed by the Sphinx.
That's right. That's it. Number 7 is Mandalay in Myanmar. And that's in northern Myanmar. And the good things that Stephanie Bond said, when it was dirty, crowded, and filled with people trying to get people to buy things or ride on their taxi. And those are the good things that she said about it. And she said it was the only place she'd ever been where taxis flagged her down instead of the other way around. And this poor woman, who knows what her viewpoint was, but she said it was, she just hated it. It was one of the worst cities in Myanmar, and they regularly detain and beat up both gay women and cross-dressers, and so that was a place, do not go.
This is also where we had that story a couple of weeks ago about those sneezing monkeys.
Yeah, exactly. Number 6 is a big surprise. This was written by a journalist whose name is Ruth Mead. Pisa, Italy. We always talk about the Leaning Tower.
Yeah.
And she said when she arrived there, people said don't go there, but she said no, it's going to be worth it. So she stayed in a hotel on the main street. It's not a very big town, but she didn't find anything open there that was very attractive in terms of her to eat, but she did find one restaurant, and so she walked in and she had shorts on. And all the Italian families just stared at her as though they'd never seen legs before, and she felt really uncomfortable. And so the next day, went up to the tower, which was ridiculously crowded with tourists and way too long a line. She decided to go to the beach, where she said tourists weren't even welcome. It was a surprise. But anyway, she went to the beach, and it was another disappointment. Stones, boulders, no good sun. And she said, but Pisa was Pisa was not a must city. But I don't know. I wonder whether it's getting a bad rap just because there were so many tourists.
Could be.
There.
I've also heard in the past that Pisa was way overrated.
Yeah.
You see the tower, you don't really want to climb in it, and you take a picture of you pretending to push it. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, number 5 was a surprise. Paris.
What?
I know. Here's the
Paris, la ville de bien, la ville de l'amour.
Anybody been?
No.
A friend of mine has.
Pardon?
A friend of mine has.
Like it?
I think, if I remember correctly, she said they might have been a little bit rude. I'm not sure if that was Paris. I think it was.
Yeah, no, I've heard the rude.
Must have been the French.
I've heard rude, but everybody that I know has just fallen in love with it, and they don't want to go.
I'm surprised by that.
But so this was shocking. But this person said, this journalist didn't like it because that she said that it was the architecture was wonderful, but it was trashy and dirty and unsafe. And the journalist said even Russia made her feel better than a place that was supposed to be the city of love. And she said she was shocked by some of the old-fashioned systems that were supposed to have been left behind, that there's still social and ethnic segregation, causing a number of demonstrations, which increase the dangers of the city. And being a secular city, one cannot. Now, this was a surprise to me. I didn't know this. And she considers it a negative. But people cannot wear signs of religion in certain public places. Oh yeah, no, of course I remember, because they had some problems with women wearing the hijab.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
I don't see that as a negative.
Yeah, no, I don't. But this was something that this person, who might have been a religious person, said that she didn't find that was very nice. So why anybody would even notice it? I wouldn't. Would you notice if someone's not wearing a religious symbol?
No, but how would you know?
But if I was like Christian and wearing a cross, like, would that be something I wouldn't be allowed? Like, do they consider that?
No, but you'd be a tourist. I mean, I guess it has to do with the residents who are doing business and part of the government can't wear anything. You can because you're a regular person.
I wonder if I went to Paris and I wore like a big atheist shirt with a big atheist A on it, if they would recognize that as a symbol of religion in any way, shape,
or your tattoo.
Well, yeah, but you won't see the tattoo, right?
Yeah, like if they're like people that aren't allowed to wear these symbols of religion, are like in like government and stuff like that, I'm totally okay with it. But if it's like, oh, sorry, if you walk into this building for any reason, you're not allowed to have any.
No, I think it's just people who work for the government are not allowed to. I don't see how they could restrict everybody from, once you give them your passport and they say, okay, turn in your crucifix and your Star of David. I don't think they could do that. Anyway, number 4, Langkawi. I'm terrible. Malaysia. Malaysia. It's synonymous with a tropical island, and this person said it was a place really wanted to go. The official name is the Jewel of Kedah, and it turned out to be more of a cubic zirconia. So in Malaysia, this part of Malaysia was hideously overpriced. Manic taxi drivers that have a tendency to sideswipe trees or run into other cars or run them off the road, and the hotel was filthy, loud air conditioning, no sand, no anything else within walking distance, and the whole thing was just horrible. And at the top of things is the Sky Bridge, which sounds wonderful, cable suspension at the highest point that offered amazing views, but the weather was terrible and it was closed for repair. So
that sucks.
Yeah, terrible. Anyway, number 3, Temple Bar, Ireland. How could any place in Ireland?
I was literally about to be like, I want to go to Ireland.
See, I don't get this fascination with Ireland and Scotland. I really don't. Everybody seems to want to go there from North America.
It's rainy.
Oh, okay.
It's green with rolling hills with little horses
Kirsten,
that you can ride on the beach.
I'll ask a normal person. Kirsten, what is the fascination with Ireland?
Yeah, I think it's the scenery and the castles and the architecture.
Yeah, but you can find better than that in Germany.
My family, apparently some distant relative there's
I'm Irish.
A little bit of a castle left standing, and it's the kitchen.
But this is fun. Temple Bar is it's in central Dublin. It's an area in central Dublin, which is even more surprising. But you have a place to go, you got a person who'll give it a bad review. Anyway, the fun thing about this is that there are more Americans there probably than Irishmen.
That's probably why it's to stay away.
My cousin's been to Ireland.
The only way, he says the only way Temple Bar should be featured on a bucket list if it's a bucket for vomiting after drinking 15 overpriced pints of mediocre Guinness.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, I think everybody loves the cobbled streets or the scenery, but this particular person says, if you fancy listening to good Irish songs that are traditionally Irish, don't go. This is not the place for you. Okay, number 2, I think is interesting. Saigon.
Oh, really?
It's a big tourist attraction. Have you known anybody that's gone there? Or is that not on anybody's list?
Nope, it's hot.
Yeah.
Vietnam, it's going to be hot, yeah.
Yeah, I saw it was, what is the chef's name on CNN that goes to various places in the
Ramsay?
world? No.
Anthony Bourdain?
Anthony Bourdain, yeah. I saw his one on Saigon, and it really made me want to go. But here's the negative about that. She says the taller the skyscrapers, the darker the shadows. Oh. And she tried really hard to find something good about it, but couldn't find anything charming to say. And she said that it's the only place in Vietnam where she's not felt safe. It's impossible to walk around. Motorbike congestion, air pollution made her physically sick on 2 different occasions. Someone pushed her off her bike. She saw a man...
Pushed her off a bike?
But yeah, she was on a bike. I guess there's more bikes to get around than anything else. So this is just sleazy. The whole place was sleazy. And sleazy. Okay, number 1. Anyone who want to guess any place close?
Abbotsford, BC.
Yeah, well, we were number 11. I'm telling you, we missed.
New York.
No, that was number 12. Anyway, here we go. Pyongyang, North Korea.
Well, yeah, okay, I guess so.
Yeah. And this person says this is one of the worst places to travel. It typically costs over $1,000 for a very strict, very propaganda-heavy tour. Not getting there, but a tour. And the tour shows you nothing of what's really going on. They have a terrible track record of human rights, as we know, power abuse, lying, propaganda, and it's expensive. You don't feel safe. Well, you feel safe, but you feel as though you're being watched, which you are every minute of the day, and that the money that's given, that you pay for the tour, probably benefit some of the most corrupt leaders, and she felt it was a fake trip, and not a single person with half a brain would even be remotely interested in going. It's not a brave adventure. It's being ignorant and selfish about where all the money goes. And she ends by saying it's like someone traipsing around Nazi Germany and thinking it was a fantastic experience while ignoring the burning smells coming from the random camp a few miles down.
Ouch.
Yeah. What a way to end one of the worst places to go.
That's a bit harsh.
That's a bit harsh. I had to save that one for number 1.
I don't think that's a bit harsh. I think that's kind of spot on.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're probably quite right. But I mean,
now this was written before the Olympics, so hard to know if they cleaned it up and changed it.
Yeah, maybe it's different now, right? They've cleaned it up ever since.
Well, they might not have cleaned it up because people didn't really go north.
Yeah.
They came south.
Well, cleaned up their act, so to speak.
I don't know.
Or just really indoctrinated the gymnasts that came to the Olympics.
That'd be an interesting thing. Also, let's go to North Korea just for travel. That'd be a weird thing.
Yeah, but you really have to check things out. I mean, sometimes the Canadian government puts different places on watch lists where you absolutely shouldn't go, and some places are perfectly fine. It's the interviewer that's the worst, the worst part of the trip. So hard to tell, but I think it's fun to do something like that every now and then.
Well, thank you again, Nancy, for another wonderful list. And now, Kirsten, what are we doing?
Another brilliant moment. Brought to you by religion.
Woohoo! Mm-hmm. She's got a knack on this, doesn't she? Okay, a couple of stories. Creationist Ken Ham. You know, the founder of the infamous Ark Encounter Museum and part missing lake himself? He issued a bizarre tweet last week in which he lashed out at Christians who believe that life has existed on Earth for millions and not merely thousands of years. In explaining why all true Christians should believe that God created the world in a mere 6,000 years ago, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, Ham said that accepting such a narrative would be to blame God for the creation of diseases that he believes came about only after a talking snake tricked two people into eating an apple. The lesson here, never take dietary advice from a snake.
He's just trying to plump you up so he can eat you.
Quote, Christians who believe the fossil record was laid down millions of years before man are really accusing God of saying cancer and disease are very good. Genesis 1:31. As many diseases have been discovered in fossil bones supposedly millions of years old. He wrote, no disease came after sin. So this guy
before sin. No disease came before sin.
No, he says after sin.
Really?
Yeah. It should be before sin. You're right. It shouldn't be before sin. Maybe there's a mistake in the article here. So this guy believes that, you know, the idea that there are diseases older than 6,000 years old. No, that never happened. Because otherwise you're accusing God of creating those diseases.
It's almost like you should read your Bible.
It's almost like you should take that with a grain of salt. Right?
I mean, I just take the whole thing as being a myth, and it's just difficult to argue with a mythologist. Is it a mythologist or mythicist? Mythicist? I refuse to argue with mythicists.
You know, I tell him, whenever I talk to Ken Ham, I tell him, I said, Nancy was there.
That's right.
And you know what? 6,000 years ago, God was not there. Nancy was, though.
That's right.
So, there we go. Here's another story. A Republican lieutenant governor candidate on last week softened his stance that women who get an abortion should be punished if it is ever criminalized in Idaho, a day after saying the punishment should include the death penalty. So he used to say, if you're a woman in Idaho and you got an abortion, you should be killed, essentially. But he decided to soften his stance.
So what now? It's only you should go through the Spanish Inquisition?
In prison for life?
That's a new softened stance?
Quote, prosecutions have always focused on the abortionists, said Bob Nonini in a statement. There is no way a woman would go to jail alone, face a death penalty. The statute alone, the threat of prosecution, would dramatically reduce abortion, and that's my goal. So he thinks by threatening women with the death penalty, they're just going to stop having abortions also.
Well, as soon as they hear that it's all just a show.
The only problem is, having children can sometimes be a death sentence.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking. So you lose either way.
Yeah.
It's like more like choose your method.
He says, quote, there should be no abortion, and anyone who has an abortion should pay. So impressed by moderator on the nature of the punishment, Nonini, I hope I'm saying this right, nodded in agreement when asked if he supports the death penalty as a possible outcome for abortion. Well,
just remember, when Trump is impeached, this guy will still be in office.
Yeah, exactly.
Just remember.
Exactly. It's pretty scary. This is Idaho. It's not far from here.
No.
It's not far from here.
I wonder. No, it's not.
But it's across an impenetrable ice border.
Okay, and here's a third little story. You know what? This would be a typical year, Nancy, if you didn't get your biannual Christian end of the world prediction.
Yes.
Yep. So according to conspiracy theorists, codes of the Bible suggest the end of the world is imminent. The earth will be destroyed April 23rd. Mark your calendar.
No.
Yes.
It's before the Avengers.
As soon as you had that reaction, I'm like, oh, it's before the Avengers.
It's
gonna be about.
Well, you do remember, if you've been keeping your little card, if you survive 9 apocalypse, the 10th one is free.
Oh, fun.
So you get a free pass to survive?
Yeah, we have a friend that gives taco parties on Apocalypse Day, not Apocalypse, End of the World Day. So that's a good thing to look forward to.
We should totally do that. We should do it. Yes.
Does it come on? Does it come? What day of the week?
The 23rd. I'm not sure what to.
Is that one of the days that we're doing our...
Give me a sec, I'll find out.
Let's find out. In the meantime...
We've never done a show on the End of the World Day.
We should totally do
It's
that.
a Monday.
Now the question is, does it end all at once or like go time zone?
Well, it's a good question.
Well, it's a Monday, so...
One theory suggests the end times date back to astrological constellation appearing on November 23rd, matching the book of Revelation 12-12. The passage signaled the start of the rapture and the second coming of Jesus Christ. Now, he's finally coming back. It's about friggin' time. Jesus, he's like 2,000 years late now. The passage 12:12 reads, quote, And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and in her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was crying in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. Well, that totally sells it. I'm totally sold, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it is thought that Virgo is the woman in the passage. So you have to look at the constellation, right?
Yeah.
So on April 23rd, the sun and the moon will be in Virgo, as will Jupiter, which represents the Messiah.
Wow.
I thought Jupiter was named after
Convincing.
Zeus. Experts at first dismissed the claim when they discovered this alignment happens every 12 years. However, the conspiracy theories claim another planetary alignment representing the Lion of the tribe of Judah will make this time the rapture. Christian conspiracy theorist David Mead is the main expert suggesting the end times are here. So he suggests the end will happen April 20... Whoa, Christians suggest the end will come April 28th, not April 23rd.
Yay!
Mr. Mead.
It's the day after it comes out.
You get to see the Avengers.
Yes.
Only part one, though.
I think we should have a new holiday based on the end of the world day.
Yeah.
And the day before, we call that Eat, Drink, and Be Merry Day because tomorrow you die.
That's
Nobody
right.
has to work.
Can I tell a
nobody
really funny
has to
story?
worry. Don't you like that idea?
I
I
love
think it's a great
Yes.
story.
Hey, it's an excuse for a party.
So, okay, is it okay if I tell a funny story?
Well, hold on just a
Okay.
sec.
Okay.
Mr. Mead also predicts a mythological planet system known as Planet X, Nibiru, is going to appear in the sky on April 23rd. Of course, NASA's decided to debunk this a long time ago. So that's where it is. The end of the world very soon again.
So, when I was still a Christian, I think I was about 14 at the time. So I have a lot of older siblings, and they're almost all really religious. And one of them is a Judeo-Christian, and she was trying to convince me that the blood moons, because there was like all these blood moons like after each other, and like, oh, it's gonna be like the end of the world because of these dates in the Bible. And
Yeah, of course.
I don't talk to her anymore. But I after like the blood moons happened, I wanted so much to be like, so we're still around.
I know. It's like, it's almost like it's made up.
I know, right? It's just so interesting how many
One
things
day-
you can make fit.
One day we should just take all this equipment and go to your house, at your folks' place,
Oh,
and do
God.
a show with them. That'd be so amazing.
You're assuming you could get in the front door.
Yeah, but I'm assuming I'd be getting out alive too.
Yeah. The question is, who would we want to interview first?
Well, you
We'll line 'em up.
Which brand of crazy do we want? Gun Nut,
Well, you
Alex
just-
Jones, like the Sandy Hook massacre was a hoax, or would we want like?
Oh, we could do a whole series and replace
we
that.
really
That's
could.
just
So
one show.
many.
Pick a family member, any family member.
Pick a card, any card.
Pretty much.
We're just going to have to
Gotta
send
collect 'em
Christina
all.
in. We'll just send you in with a microphone, Christina. Undercover.
Undercover reporting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for this. All right, so let's take a quick break, and after that, we'll play the interview I did with Jessica Schab. So stay with us.
Do you know where Saskatchewan is? Probably not. It's in Canada. If you do, you might know a city named Regina. In Regina, there's a studio. And in that studio, there are, at least once a month, a bunch of skeptical atheist geeks and goofballs who get together to do a podcast. We are the Brainstorm Crew, and we're trying to help spread a bit of reason and critical thinking while still having fun. Never taking things too seriously, but still not accepting everything we're told. We go through different topics, exploring them in depth, and often disagreeing. We try to stick to provable facts, and we never trust in myth. That's why we say we're woo-free since 2013. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Spreaker under Brainstorm, or check out our website, brainstormblog.net. I can't promise you'll always agree with us, but I can promise you'll have fun listening to us.
In a world torn apart by a lack of reason,
Or lease.
And I think it should be religion treated with ridicule and hatred and contempt. And I claim that right.
In the morning. Hi, everybody. This is Robert Stanley from the Right to Reason podcast. And if you subscribe now, you'll get free.
Learn more about the broadcast at therighttoreason.com.
Think that you can tell us
never questioning the source from which your moral code derives. You think that suffering is part of some great plan that's been devised. I wonder, what will it take for you to start opening your eyes?
Okay, so joining us online is Jessica Schab. She is formerly a crystal child. She's got a fascinating story, and she's a snappy dresser and a snazzy dancer. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us at Left of the Valley.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Cool. Now you gotta let me know, because this your story is a fascinating one, and you said you were a crystal child. Now explain to our audience what is a crystal child.
So I didn't give myself that title. It actually came from my Project Camelot interview that ended up making me quite famous online, blowing up overnight. But their definition of a crystal child, from how I understand it, is like a soul that is quite conscious of all their lives, just and all about unconditional love. And just wanting to heal and help the world, and has like humanity's greater good in mind. So as far as like remembering all past lives, is of course not possible, but they have this kind of old soul feeling, so they give this off. And I've always felt like a grandparent to everyone I've met, just a nurturer, and just always wanting to help. At this Atlas complex, and I just thought, like, the world just needs love. And so I had some information that I got at a young age that I can get into from my dad. He started. Sorry, I'm jumping into other questions. We can stop there, and then we can go into the other one. So
no, not a problem. So that's exactly what they mean when you get a person that tells you you have an old soul. They're basically saying you have a soul that has had many reincarnations, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. But I wanted to take it to another level. I'm like, well, not just past lives, but future lives, multidimensional lives in between lives.
Oh, wow. By all means, please elaborate.
Well, just this more quantum aspect, right? As if I knew what I was talking about, but it sounded like, bending the rules of what we understood. It sounded new and cutting edge, whereas before most people were familiar with indigo children. And indigo children, I always saw them as like system busters with a chip on their shoulder, that were angry at themselves and angry at the world, where crystal children had transmuted this, and they're in their unconditional loving state. And they have like X-Men abilities, and I was looking to find others like that. And it's amazing how, like, I was convinced I had such abilities, like healing and a dream guide as well. Other people had convinced me of this too. So it's quite fascinating. You can't really question or be critical about it when you have so many people singing your praises and constantly like talking about your abilities or what you've done for them. Okay, it's quite surreal.
So maybe let's take this one step at a time, because there's a lot to unpack here. So eventually, you were born into a religious family?
Correct. It was a cult. I call it. It was like a strange religion that is a combination of Christian, Judaism, and Jehovah's Witness. Okay. And there was no actual building of the church. It was like in a high school, and it was on Saturday. And we weren't allowed to eat pork and seafood and things like this. It was very strange.
What were they calling themselves?
They were called the Worldwide Church of God. Okay. And now I think they're called the Reformed Church of God now. Okay. They went away for a while. They fell apart, and now they came back.
So it's from a Christian base, essentially. And as you were growing up, somehow, culturally, the Church of God, if I'll use that prerogative for them there, adopted a, for lack of a better term, New Age approach to things. Would I be correct with saying that?
This church?
Yes.
No. Actually, for my segue into becoming a New Age teacher, crystal child. So what happened was my sister died when I was 16, and my dad started to get strokes. And sorry, I have to go back. Before that, when I think it was 14, so this was before my sister died, my dad he said he had like voices that were telling him that like they were like angels, and they were witnessing my dad at church, and they were like, "What are you doing here? It's so boring. They're just saying the same thing over and over. You should leave." And he left the church. And then I didn't know like what was going on at the time. Like I only found out later on that it was a transient stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So it was happening. There was so it was going on a lot earlier than when the actual stroke took place.
Mm-hmm.
But when the actual stroke took place, then it was even more after the time my sister died, because then my dad said, "Oh, I can see her. She's come back, and she says, you know, that the family is chosen for a very important mission, and that he kept talking about me, that I have very important work to do, that my soul chose this, that my sister's not really dead, that he's now connected to aliens like Pleiadians and Andromedans that are all like working with the family." And it just got very, very weird. And I was a skeptic. I didn't buy it at all. I was very frustrated. I just wanted my dad to be a normal dad. It was hard enough, you know, losing my sister, but now having to hear that she's not really dead and all this, we chose this. It was very upsetting. So I was rebelling a lot when he would try to talk to me about these things.
Mm-hmm.
But he was quite persistent, and also other people, too, would start talking to me about the same things my dad was talking to me about, or I would go into bookstores and books would fall on my feet about the same kind of things that my dad was talking about. So it's like, oh my gosh, I can't escape this. And then my dad then died when I was 21.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right before that I said something quite harsh to him, so I felt very guilty and missed him a lot, and so I embraced these beliefs for him to make it up to him and to be close with him. And that's actually how it happened.
It's rather fascinating that the Church of God, that church you were in, seemed to embrace things like aliens, which is not very typical in Christianity.
So I would say that this church didn't really embrace this. It was my dad coming up with his own version, I think, from his stroke. The church doesn't talk about aliens. If anything, they would probably say it's evil or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the devil.
So, yeah. And I actually never really was bought into those beliefs as well as a kid, but I was really good at memorizing the verses because I knew that, like, being good at church meant getting candy, you know, so I looked at it that way. And also I wanted to be a good person, and that's the way to be a good person. But I was never comfortable with this concept of Jesus in your heart, or there, you know, you have to love Jesus or embrace it. Like, I don't know this Jesus. It sounds like a stalker.
He totally does. You have to be afraid of him and still love him. So it's like, that's weird.
I never met him. How can you tell me we have to have this kind of a relationship with him?
Yes, indeed. Looking back now, I don't want to belay the point on your father. I'm sure he was a good man in many ways, but you get the impression that maybe your father wanted to maybe live vicariously through his children sometimes?
You know what? I never thought of it that way. I think he just really was very frustrated. It was a very difficult time for us, also financially, and also just a sense of purpose and direction and the meaning of all the tragedies. I think he was just doing the best he could with what he knew how, and he thought he was encouraging. He thought he was helping.
Yeah, of course.
You know, there's some meaning behind it. It's not all in vain.
Yeah. He's not malicious in any way in anything he's doing there. He's doing this. He actually believes what he was doing there.
Yeah, absolutely. There are two kinds of believers I find. Let's say two kinds of people who promote these things. People who have convinced themselves it's true, or others have convinced them it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And then people who know that it's see it as a way to exploit people and get as much like money and success out of it as possible.
Okay, I don't want to pry too much into your personal life, of course, but
you can ask me whatever you want.
Is Mom still in the picture at that point?
Yes, my mother is still in the picture.
Mom is still in the picture.
My mom and my dad have very great relationship. They have 5 kids. I'm the middle child, and they were absolutely dedicated to each other till when my dad's passing. And my mom just went along with it when he started talking about these things. She was like, she came from the mentality of support your man. Yes. The man is the head of the household. He's always right. He comes first. So I stand beside you. If this is what you think, or this is what you're getting. And she was looking at it from a religious perspective. This might be God working through you, or so something like this.
Yeah, and I could totally see how a parent would actually go with that too, because hey, your child is special all of a sudden, even more special than the other kids around, right? So I could totally see how that would happen.
I don't know. You know what? I don't know how much my mother was aware of how much she was talking to me about my mission, because she was a little bit didn't know what to think about it when I told her about it. I think she just wanted me to do something that I loved, and it seemed to work for me. I was dyslexic. I didn't really fit in. I mean, I was frustrated with my dad because I wanted to be normal, and now with this, where even now I have no chance of ever being normal. Difficult keeping a job. And then when I started speaking about these things and making YouTube videos, it just, people immediately became so connected with me. Wow. And it just worked. It was the first thing that ever worked. So you think, oh, it's a sign, it's meant to be, and things like that. Mm-hmm. And my mom just supported it because she just wanted. She was the kind of mom that just, if whatever you really want to do, that you think is the best for you to do, then do it.
Okay. So
it wasn't live through me, do what I want you to do, or follow in my footsteps or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. So now essentially your father's somehow unwittingly implanted a seed in your mind, and now as coincidences are happening, like you said, those books are dropping at your feet. Oh my God, what a coincidence! But you don't take it that way; you take it as a sign, and you're slowly falling into believing the myth.
Correct. Yeah, and now that I think about it, of course those books would fall at my feet because they started to become popular, and I was in a kind of an self-help kind of bookstore. Mm-hmm. So the odds of some book like that falling at my feet, so that's not that much of a coincidence. But at that time, I was like, whoa, it's a sign. And then the other one where a guy came up to me one day, and he's like, I was working in the film industry at the time on set, and he came up to me and he's like, is your name Jessica? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, Schab? I'm like, yeah. Because I've never seen this guy before. Mm-hmm. He's like, and your parents' name is Roseanne and Terry? I'm like, uh-huh. And he gives me these tapes that are all the things that my dad was talking about to me. And so now, at that time, it was like, oh my gosh, it's another sign. But now, thinking skeptically about it and rationally, I realized that, well, my dad drove me to set a lot of times. He probably could have talked to this person and told him about, what he's into, mm-hmm. And about me. And the guy probably was into these things as well. And so he had a whole bunch of content and videos that he wanted to give to me to also give to my dad.
It's a small world after all.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so now slowly but surely you're falling into this, and you're starting to believe what will become the legend of Jessica Schab.
Yeah.
Now, how far did that go?
It went quite far. Unfortunately, I'm so embarrassed by it now.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to embarrass you with that
millions of followers. I was asked to travel and stay at people's places and speak and do events and constant radio shows, and I was like a celebrity, and it was very strange.
So if you don't mind me asking, what exactly were your quote unquote powers that you were supposed to have there?
Yeah, healing.
Okay.
Just being able to connect with people's souls and have instant familiarity and comfort. But this is I'm just a people person. I naturally have a lot of empathy and care about people, and they just feel instantly comfortable with me and want to share anything with me, like things that they wouldn't share with anybody else. So also dream guide. I had constant people telling me that I visit them in their dreams. Even one time a couple was watching my video, and their 3-year-old child came out and said, I know her, she came to me in my dreams. So, and there's a video somewhere about meeting Jessica Mystic in your dreams is out there as well. I saw one time.
Oh, wow.
What other, there's probably more. And I just made these videos that were very much right now it's all about the earth being flat, but in my time, in my day, it was all about the earth. It was hollow.
The earth was hollow.
And also, I was wanting to help people connect with their guides.
Yeah, okay.
I never talked to anything. It was just, I just felt like something was downloaded to me that I just knew what to say and what people needed to hear to bring out the best in them, because they were like struggling, of course, with, you know, self-esteem or what they are to do with their life, or how to talk about their beliefs to the people they care about, or afraid that they're crazy and things like that. So I just help comfort them with that, but now I feel awful about, because I see where it leads. And I couldn't see it at that time. It just seemed like, oh, it's positive and all good. When you were a believer,
was there any moment where you felt that this was a huge responsibility to, you know, to be such a quote-unquote spiritual guide for these people? It must have been
Absolutely.
It must have been terrifying at some point to say, my God, these people are relying on me for this.
All the time. And I was fighting that, but I was like, this is what my dad, you know, wanted me to do, and this is how I can feel close with him, and I will just kind of I also had this idea of like if I have kids one day, they might ask me about this time. I don't want to tell them I did nothing. I want to tell them I did everything I could to make the world, you know, as best as possible with all the messes we're constantly, you know, seeing around us. So it was always like this kind of reasoning. So and I guess I also had the Atlas complex at a young age as well with my family, being quite poor, constantly finding ways to help them financially. So taking on the responsibility of my whole family as well, even like trying to look after my parents and things like this.
That's tough. That's
so
tough
I just
for
macroed it. Yeah, it is. It was very tough.
Wow.
It still is. I still have that mindset, and I have to constantly like challenge it.
So when you were in the peak of your era there as the mystic, what kind of recommendations would you give people in their life? I mean, you connected in them in their dreams and all that, but people came to you for advice, obviously. So what kind of line would you direct them to?
Well, I would never say I was psychic or anything like that. I would just try to just get them to get connected with what they really love, what they want to do, and that they can do it, that they're meant to do it, that they will help so many people. And they just got so excited by this. And many people did end up going and doing, like, setting up eco-communities and things like that and inviting me to it. It's thanks to you that this is going on, you know, or inventions or just whatever we could to kind of, like, stand up to all the repression of, like, you know, free, you know, this thing about Tesla right now, free energy and living off the grid and things like that.
That must be very interesting, because in a way, today you're a skeptic and you're a tad embarrassed by that, but at the same time, it's not like you did anything really harmful, right? I mean, if you were giving words of encouragement to people and inspiring messages, where is the harm in that, essentially?
Because I wasn't telling people to be critical at all. Like, when people were concerned about their mental state, like, I feel like I'm talking to my guides and they're saying this, and that. Is that crazy, or am I crazy? I would always say, like, of course, you don't want to tell a person they're crazy, and they're not necessarily crazy, but you're encouraging it and telling them that it's okay. When they should be really, like, maybe it's telling you good things now, which that's how it usually starts, and you think it's always right, and you trust it all the time. You make it your authority, and then I saw where certain people, or even friends of mine, were having these, my guides told me to jump off the roof, and they ended up, like, fracturing their spine. And someone who, like, oh, my guys told me to do this kind of mission and this quest, or they're telling me that I have to fight the evil forces with my energy all the time. And, you know, it just gets people, they eventually really do lose their mind, unfortunately. They get so carried away. Conspiracy theorists, you know, everything is, I mean, there are some conspiracies.
Oh, of course.
But they get so paranoid that everything is a conspiracy. So even when I would start to tell people to question this, no, now you are of the Illuminati. They got to you, the dark powers, you know. So this is what I feel very embarrassed about. I was living in Bali for a bit, and in 2012, there were a lot of people there for, you know, remember the end of the world thing, for these spiritual workshops and Kundalini activations. And I found out that a majority of Western people that go there end up in mental institutions. Or there's also so many spiritual leaders that are just full-blown narcissists. And they just completely exploit and just do whatever they want with people. They just get off on how people will believe everything they say, and they want to see how far they can get away with it. And even just this idea that I would tell people, love is always the answer. So if people are struggling with a partner or somebody that's like, they would call negative, but really it's abusive, psychologically abusive, or even physically abusive. Oh, just send them love, unconditional love, that will change their heart, and then they will become, more aware of this and be loving to you. But it only just amplifies the abuse, because they're like, oh, I can get away with this. It just creates Stockholm syndrome. So there's a whole bunch of things that I feel responsible for. And even for myself, I got into an abusive relationship and like, oh, I just need to be loving. Why isn't the love working? Why is it making him worse?
Yeah, I could totally understand that.
Yeah.
At the same time, were there competing denominations of religious people that would look at you as a force for evil, right? It was, oh my God, no, Jessica, she's of the devil, something like that. You must have these kind of attacks as well.
Yeah, because I would rarely mention Jesus. I had this often in my videos. I got comments like that, or she's evil, she needs to find Christ, and stuff like that, false prophet. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That was a bit interesting. Yep. Then at some point, for lack of a better term here, you saw the light.
Yeah.
You came to some form of apostasy. How did that happen?
So it was when I was in Bali, and like I said, with finding out about the mental institutions, that was around the time also that my friend told me about, when he talked to his guides, that he ended up, they told him to jump off the roof. So I started to, I just was so sure that what I was doing was helping. I just wanted to help. And when I got the idea that what if I wasn't helping? What if it was actually making things worse? And I didn't want to see it, but I met someone who really kind of held me to try to see it, because you try to talk to people about this, right? Mm-hmm. Who are very immersed in these beliefs, and then they'll find every possible way to just refuse to see it. Okay. So it was around the time of 2012. This, supposed to be the big shift that I was waiting for, but I wasn't fully convinced that something was going to happen. Mm-hmm. As far as like the end of the world, or like this into another dimension kind of a thing. I always was like discouraging of this, and that like because everybody was putting so much weight on this, or even people who were wanting to commit suicide at that time.
People were going nuts about that Mayan calendar thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I really liked that comic of them with the Mayan going, "Hey, why did you end it at 2012?" And he's like, "I ran out of room." Something as simple as that it could be. But anyway, it was sort of like all this hype and everything was built up. So I was really curious to see what would happen, and watching, what people were posting. Oh, I'm feeling the shift, and how people were trying to convince themselves something was going on, or doing big parties, and just talking to people about how they got like screwed over during that time. So I just started to see how much of an authority I had made these beliefs, mm-hmm. and the kind of problems that they were making, and how they had really taken over my mind, and they think for me rather than my own mind. And that was very frustrating. I wanted to challenge myself to think outside my beliefs. Yes. But I didn't know how, mm-hmm. because I had conditioned myself for many years with these kind of beliefs. So that's really how, my transition was a long process, mm-hmm. long and painful.
Yes.
Because so many things were tied to it. So I had my livelihood was provided for because of these beliefs. My relationships were all through the beliefs. Mm-hmm. My identity. So who am I if I'm not this, right? So that was very difficult. So it took years, basically, of critical thinking, questioning, observing my own patterns, studying my mindset. What is behind this thought? Where did this idea come from? Mm-hmm. Things like this, constantly, until I could finally feel less because it's very knee jerk. You can be critical one moment and then you can snap back into your old pattern, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. because it's been there for quite some time, and so. It's not easy.
No, I'm sure it isn't. And it must have been a very traumatizing time for you as well.
Yes.
I want to delve into that a bit deeper, but before we do that, because I think a lot of people in the skeptic community they call it, merchants of woo, and so it's a very general term, but it's also it's very hard to explain what these people actually believe. Your ex-followers, I guess I should say, what they believe. I mean, their terms are so vague. I was hoping maybe you'd be able to maybe give us a few pointers on what the base belief they have. I mean, outside of Christianity, which we already understand, I mean, they always talk about energy and stuff like that. What do they actually mean by that?
It's a really good question. So what I've come to realize is that they don't know. And I think believers are only believers because they don't really know. They think they know. And again, they convince themselves. So energy, it's what they have been taught of how they feel a person or feel a room, or if they say something that challenges their belief, then, they have negative energy. So they use it to protect their, what's the word now? It's not coming to me. Confirmatory bias.
Okay.
So energy, they might say they can, I used to, because I said I used to heal through massage, but also with long distance healing as well. How I would usually do it is I could rub my hands together, and you can feel, if you do that, in your fingertips, a kind of a tingling.
Yes.
And a heat or a cold kind of a temperature. And the more you just move your hands back and forth very slowly, you can feel almost like an elastic pull. Mm-hmm. And you imagine colors, and so you just make energy balls, and then you put your intent inside of it of positivity or love to a person, or awakening into who they are, of course, our idea of who they are, and send it off. So this is when they're talking about energy, it's usually they're either sending or they're thinking they're picking up, but it's always through what they have been taught to interpret of their belief, right? And what's convenient for them too.
That must be very interesting to see, because there must be so many different types of interpretation, but they're all very vague. So even if you threw in a couple of vague terms, the person who's going to take it as they intended to take it anyway.
Right, like quantum physics, it sounds fancy. It gives you an authority. It sounds like you know what you're talking about, and you sound like you more advanced than like a scientist. But the spiritual aspect that they think the science is lacking.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I love how Futurama explains what quantum physics is, that anything can happen anytime for any reason.
Yes. You're quite brilliant in that sense. So eventually you started to come out or come into your apostasy and say, okay, you know what, maybe Dad was wrong about this, maybe I was wrong about all this. And what was the reaction of your followers? Because you were pretty popular at that point, right? You had lots of people following you, asking you for advice and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was really naive. I thought, okay, I'm starting to see this. My followers will definitely see this as well, and I have a responsibility to also inform them because I care about them. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't so much maybe my dad's wrong. It was more I want to do what's right, and maybe my dad was confused or he had the best intentions, but it didn't turn out right in the long run. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know if these beliefs are true or not. That's not so important to me. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Maybe we identify too much into it. Maybe it's a lot of our imagination. But what bothers me, and the most important thing to me about it, is why do we have to make it be our authority to make our decisions, to take over our life, to be our full identity, try to create ourselves as that, that really bothers me, because it's like being drunk and driving. You're bound to crash.
Yes.
This love bliss zombie state. It's like a creepy Twilight Zone thing, or that, you remember that old Twilight Zone episode with you can't happy thoughts, otherwise the monster boy will, do something unpleasant to you. And The Simpsons just spoofed of that as well.
That's right.
So like that. But anyway, okay, so back to your question. So yeah, I put it out. Of course, I love to share everything, my process, my discoveries, my realizations. I've done that before I was a spiritual speaker. I just share my life and where I'm at. And my followers completely turned on me. I'm evil. I'm brainwashed. I'm with the Illuminati, dark forces. It was absolutely fascinating. And I did have one hint of it before, that in my documentary that we're going to get to soon, in the trailer, I have a sequence that is a true event that happened when I was in Spain giving a speech. At the end of it, I was so taken aback by people looking at me like I was an an angel or like just something above them. And it freaked me out because I knew I was also a human and a girl, and I started to realize that they weren't seeing me for who I actually was, but an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being so uncomfortable by that I thought, I have to do something to snap them out of this spell they're under. And I'm a tomboy. I grew up with 3 brothers, so the thing that popped into my head to do was do this epic loud belch for like 3 seconds. So, you know, and I'm in this lovely little white dress and everything. and I point to my translator and I say it was him. Because I thought that was hilarious. Because, you know, and my translator's like, no, it wasn't. It was you, Jess. And just when I was about to say, of course it was, I suddenly hear this uproar of people like, well, how dare you accuse Jessica Mystic of such a thing? It was you, you pig. And it was like, what? They saw me do it. They refused to believe I could do such a thing, that they created another reality scenario in their head that my translator did this instead.
Isn't that absolutely amazing how it speaks of people's inner need for an authority over their life or something that gives them comfort, and you were that symbol, and they were going to hold on to you no matter what. And as soon as you changed the message, all of a sudden you no longer became that symbol. Now you were the enemy.
Yeah, just to say, be critical of this, question this. This could be, you know, lead to problems. A lot of times we go to these beliefs when we're struggling, when we've had a trauma, when we want to escape reality, when we're in war with reality, when we feel special or entitled. You know, the universe is love. The universe loves us. Ask the universe what you want. How, you know, entitled and narcissistic is that?
It's absolutely incredible, and it kind of makes you wonder if you were to do a little intellectual exercise of thinking. Let's say, for example, that Jesus was to return, and he did return, and he did multiply some fish and loaves and stuff like that, and starts saying, "Oh, you know what, guys? I'm actually not the Son of God. I just happened to be a guy back then who thought he was." Would people turn on Jesus Christ too because they so need the narrative? That's an amazing thought that comes to your mind. Mm-hmm. And of course, you can totally make the link with the same thing that happens in the real world with politics. People get so polarized because of an opinion. It doesn't matter what the other side says. You don't want to listen. You just want to stick to what you know and you think you know.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to constantly be aware when we're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And with Jesus, I was thinking he must struggle with this, like, nobody likes me for me. They just like me for my miracles or their idea of me or what I can do. You know, like miracles. Artists and actors struggle with that all the time. They just like me for my work, not for who I am. And so they have...
They don't know me.
Identity crises. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're not even great miracles, too, when you think about it. They're pretty lame when you think about Jesus' miracles.
Magic tricks, yeah.
So now you kind of gone on a crusade on the other side now. Are you doing this out of a sense of trying to right the wrongs, maybe, or is that just something?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I figured
that's part of it, but also because I think I want to do something. I still want to help, right? But I want to do something that is actually going to help. And so I really feel that this is what the world needs right now.
Mm-hmm.
When I started talking about it, eventually other people would come forward and talk about their stories or their realizations of how these beliefs were creating a lot of unnecessary problems for them that they could have avoided if they weren't so like drunk off of, you know, this kind of thinking. And so I started to do coaching of the disillusionment process. And the reason why I think this is so important, though, I mean, look at the situation in the States with the politics, for example, the politicians. I don't even want to say his name. Whatever. But if people were into critical thinking, if they cared about their biases, their blind spots, because we all have them. I don't understand why people aren't absolutely fascinated by that and want to understand it so as not to like constantly fall in the same damn pothole over and over again and be like, why? You know, because we constantly are making the same mistakes over and over, relationships, jobs, you know, and we're constantly getting frustrated by it and we're not studying our own patterns. So I really feel that like with the situation with the president could have been avoided if people were like critical thinkers or they cared about it a bit. I mean, why did we have to have those two candidates?
Yeah.
Why couldn't we say, no, I want neither. I want a scientist.
Yeah,
you know?
I totally agree.
And Brexit, I mean, I think whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it remains to be seen. But what was so shocking and fascinating was how people looked up how it would affect them, and then how it would affect the country. 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 And then how it would affect the cou after it was pardoned.
So
I really think what the world needs is to think more critical. We live in such an overwhelming information age. And, it's so easy to like find an article and, oh, that's interesting, scientists say, and share it, right? Without checking the source and things like that.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
it really is affecting us because like we're seeing like this, how easy we can be manipulated online with videos, algorithms, selecting what they think you would be, what you'd want. You heard the big scam with Facebook that, of what, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this as well. And if we were critical thinkers, we could have probably avoided this. Yeah. So what I like so much also about, thinking in this way is that it's about prevention. It's not about coping after the damage is, or after the damage has been done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, as humans, we seem to be much more reactive as a species instead of preventative. We react to things. We can't seem to have any foresight for the future, and it's quite the shame. In your travels now that first of all, I have to commend you because you know what? I think a lot of people would have just stuck with the story of being the mystic and just make a fortune. So the fact that you came out and you said, you know what, guys, I don't think this is actually right, is you're number one in my book right there. That's incredibly honest, and I admire that.
It's a $1 billion industry. And in my
huge.
trailer, I said I have 3 options. I can either forget that I found this out and just continue to ride the gravy train, because I probably would have become even more successful. It's very likely I had all these offers pouring in and things like that. Or disappear and beat myself up forever, or like face it and just tell everyone. Yeah. And so, but again, like I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I chose those other ones.
That's highly commendable, that's for sure. But in your travels, you've met. I'm assuming you've met other quote unquote gifted people. And have any of them decided to kind of follow your leadership in that sense, or are they still all pretty much stuck where they are?
I haven't met any that decided to walk away from it like I have. They still have stuck to it.
Yeah, unfortunately. So
it would be nice. I don't know any other person who's a spiritual leader that's renounced it yet. I don't know if I'm the only one, but so far that's I know I don't. I'm hoping that someone else will come forward and talk to me about that. I know there's a lot of pastors and that have renounced it, which is great. So I'm hoping I can start a trend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, after all, we see that in the clergy world as well, right? I mean, they have things like the Clergy Project now to help pastors get out of it when they just don't believe. And of course, like you said, you've made your living at this. You've been doing this for years. It's one of the only skills you have. It's not an easy decision to just decide to walk out. It's not like you're just changing job or anything like that, right? It's a very difficult thing to do. So
start all over again.
Exactly.
Start all over again. That's it. But again, it's about living with yourself. I don't see it as brave. It's just that's the person I am. That's what I felt was right to do. I want to help. If I'm not helping, then I have to be honest with myself and find what will actually help.
Well, trust me,
because again, I'm fooling myself because I'm just, if I continue with that, forget I heard it. Like it is. We think, okay, well, I'll just focus on the good things of how I'm helping people. I do think that like, the more problems that come from it, I helped create that, because I didn't take responsibility when the time came.
Well, trust me, Jessica, it is brave because every day I see people that fool themselves for material gain. So the fact that you stepped away from that is commendable. But in your efforts to try to dismiss the spell, if you wish, you've been working on a documentary. That's correct.
I'm working with a French production company, and the documentary, I want to do something quite different. I want to make it interactive. So people think they're watching a story about a girl, but actually I'm going to be talking about everybody, so everybody can relate. It'll be like the Never-Ending Story. Mm-hmm. Remember that movie?
Yes,
where
of course.
You're pulled in, and I'm talking about everyone, so they will be able to see their own patterns. There'll be quizzes going on. There'll be animation. I was thinking of doing something like a reverse Alice in Wonderland. What if you were born in Alice in Wonderland? And so we have such amazing effects right now going on. We have now 3D filming we can do. There's virtual reality filming we can do. There's augmented reality filming. And all of this would be really interesting to show the reality of a New Ager believer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then as you progress in the film, there's a disillusionment process as more and more of that is like goes away. And also there's me interviewing my past self, because some of the questions people ask me now about those beliefs, I'm like starting to forget. I can't relate to that person anymore. I mean, some people say, what does a crystal child believe? Or what do they do? I'm like, I don't even know anymore. Good question. When you find out, you tell me. So I really, I don't know. If I want to kind of time travel back to myself in the past and shake myself. What are you doing? So I kind of want it to be a mockumentary where James Randi does a wonderful documentary of The Honest Liar, right?
Yes.
Where he exposes the fakers. So I want to expose my fake self.
Mm-hmm.
And I want it to be humorous. So in the trailer, it's humorous but also sad, because I talk about all the things I used to believe, and then I'm vomiting out a rainbow that's like with sparkles and everything beautiful in it. And it's funny, but it's also tragic, because I'm saying, look how sick it's made me, and I'm still purging this stuff. You know, it just because it's pretty coming out, it makes you sick. So that's why I call it Memoirs of a Former Mystic. Too much love and light will make you sick.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to when this documentary comes out. Do you have any set date or approximately when it will be available?
So we're in the pre-production stage. The trailer I'm talking about is a pre-production trailer.
Yeah.
We're in the process of getting funds right now for production companies. This is going to be a feature.
Mm-hmm.
And so far we have a lot of interest also with skeptic organizations, consumer prevention organizations, because so many people are buying, like crystals. And you can say something has a consciousness in just a tennis ball. You know, it belonged to this guru, and people will buy it, and they won't question it at all. So these organizations are very interested in actually having me come out to. So this is in Germany, this organization particularly, coming out and giving speeches. So I'm going to do events as well that will also be filmed for the documentary. So it should be out probably 2019, around maybe the end of 2019. We'll be filming at the end of this year.
Fantastic. Well, when it does come out, you have to come back on the show and explain to us how it all went down. And we'll certainly be talking about that some more with you.
Absolutely. I would love to. The website is jessicamystic.com and memoirsofaformermystic.com.
I was about to say, there's your moment. Go ahead, be shameless, plug yourself, but you just did that.
I beat you to it.
So,
well, I wasn't sure, because sometimes people say it and sometimes I'm supposed to say it. So
yeah.
You can plug me instead if you want.
So let's repeat that for people that might have missed that. If people want to reach you and want to find out more about the documentary, they need to go to
jessicaschab.com to find out more about me, and to find out more about my documentary, memoirsofaformermystic.com.
Fantastic. Jessica, thank you so much for explaining all this to us today. But before I let you go, I got to have you say, hi, I'm Jessica Schab, and I took a left to the valley.
Hi, I'm Jessica Schab, and I took a left at the valley.
And that was Jessica Schab. She's a very, very interesting character. And you know what? I have to commend her for being one of these people that had enough integrity. She's on top of the world. She's got a huge following of people that are admiring her and eating every word she's saying. And yet she has enough integrity to go around and say, you know what, guys, I think I was wrong about this.
Well, I'm really excited to hear it. This is one of those times that, for our audience, Kevin interviewed her at a time that was convenient for her, and we weren't able to attend. And so I'm really looking forward to listening at the same time the audience is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It was a very interesting interview, and we'll hear much more about her because she's going to be taking over for Vancouver, the Vancouver chapter of CFI, Center for Inquiry. So we'll certainly have her on the show again, and she's becoming an ally. So fantastic. Great.
Yeah, maybe she'd even come out to our studio and do the interview with us.
She's not far, actually. She's in Delta now, so she's really not far.
No, that'd be great.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show, guys. Appreciate that. You can find us at leftofthevalley.com. You can find us on Twitter at LETV Podcast, on Facebook. Send us an email leftatvalley@outlook.com. Give us a 5-star review. It really helps the show. And send your complaints to Nancy on the 3rd floor. Okay, next week, we'll be talking to Hector Garcia about the psychology of religious oppression.
That should become interesting. To that one.
At the end of the month, we'll be talking to Dr. Ben Davis and nuclear power.
I am so excited for that one.
Get nuclear questions. Now is the time to think about them. At the beginning of May, we'll be talking to John Whaley and the illusion of God's presence. And around mid-month, we'll be talking to Dr. Michael Moore and autism in children. And we'll be answering those questions about vaccine and autism and all that kind of beautiful stuff. So, we have some great shows coming up. And be sure to catch our appearance also on Brainstorm Podcast and The Right to Reason.
Yeah, that's coming up. We don't know when, but it's coming up.
Yeah, eventually they'll send us a link. We'll post it when they send us the link. So, let's see.
I already did my Harry Potter joke. Why are you all staring at me?
Damn,
because we know you?
I just muted her microphone, so now she can't do it. The power. I have the power.
Oh, it's back.
Thank you so much, guys.
It's like when your speaker comes on in the car.
Until next time.
I'd rather see the truth than to bask in my own ignorance. Rather be alone than surrounded by damn idiots. As long as there's a breath in my body, you can bet your last dollar I'll be working hard fighting this problem. Religion is a disease. It comes from culture. Only true on a regional scale. Science is universal. Are you to say that Horus isn't real, but Jesus is? Or Zeus, Thor, Mithra, Vishnu, you don't believe in them? I think the reason is apparent. You do what you're told and believe in the God assigned by your parents. I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist. Atheist. I'm an atheist. Atheist. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. Now let me take a sec. Don't mean to sound so hateful, but I swear to God, pun intended, I find it disgraceful that thousands of children are raped by priests, and since they're holy men of God, they get away scot-free. And the Pope does his very best to keep it on the hush. Don't wanna affect business, he loves money too much. We know that they love the kids, but how the fuck can we protect them while they planning to molest them? We teaching them to respect them. Respect them?
Fuck that.
The system is broke down, working backwards, and the only action or tactic I plan to practice now is to attack them. The parties of God's hands are bloodstained, millions of murders by believers, and they're all in God's name. And let me take a sec, don't mean to sound so hateful, but I swear to God, pun intended, I find it disgraceful that many atheists are told to be quiet. You're not alone, speak your mind, time to let it be known. I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an